Welcome back. Let me ask you a question. What if the next time you reach into your pocket for loose change, the penny you pull out could be worth not 1 cent, not $1, but hundreds, even thousands of dollars? It sounds unbelievable, but for some Americans, that exact moment has already happened. And today, we are talking about one small coin that has quietly surprised collectors for decades, the 1960D Lincoln penny. At first glance, the 1960D Lincoln cent looks completely ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile sits on the front, just like millions of other pennies. On the back, you see the classic wheat design used for decades before the Lincoln Memorial replaced it in later years. But hidden within some of these coins are small minting mistakes and rare varieties that have made certain examples incredibly valuable. So here is the question you should be asking yourself right now. Could one of these coins already be sitting in your jar of old pennies? Or mixed into your pocket change without you even noticing? The 1960D Lincoln penny was minted in Denver, which is why you see the small D mint mark below the date. In that year alone, the Denver Mint produced more than 1 billion pennies. With such a huge number produced, you might assume none of them could be valuable. But this is where the story becomes interesting. In 1960, something unusual happened at the mint. Two different date styles were accidentally produced. Collectors call them the large date and the small date varieties. At first glance, they look similar, but the difference in the size and spacing of the numbers can dramatically change the value of the coin. Now here's where excitement starts building. Some of the rare small date varieties, especially those in high condition, have sold for hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars at major coin auctions. Imagine that. A penny originally worth 1 cent potentially turning into a serious payday decades later. But the story doesn't stop there. Some 1960D pennies also contain minting errors. These errors happen during the production process when the coin dies shift, double strike, or create unusual marks and doubling on the design. Collectors love these mistakes because they are accidental pieces of history. For example, a strong double die or dramatic strike error can push the value of a 1960D penny far beyond what most people expect. Depending on the rarity and condition, certain examples have sold for hundreds of dollars, and sometimes even more in competitive auctions. Let me ask you something important. How many jars of pennies do you have sitting in your house right now? Maybe a coffee can full of coins in the kitchen drawer. Maybe a container in the garage. Maybe a small bag of change you haven't looked at in years. What if one of those coins could help you make real money? This is exactly why collectors and investors constantly search through pocket change. The idea that a simple coin could transform from everyday currency into a valuable collectible is what keeps the treasure hunt alive. Now you might be wondering something very practical. How do you actually sell old rare coins in the United States? The first step is identifying what you have. Look closely at the date, mint mark, and overall condition of the coin. Small differences can change the value dramatically. A magnifying glass or coin loop can help reveal details like doubling or unusual marks. The second step is understanding condition. Coin collectors grade coins based on how much wear they show. A coin that looks shiny and nearly untouched can be worth far more than one that has been heavily circulated. But here's an important question many viewers ask. Where can you sell rare coins safely? There are several options. Local coin shops are often the first place people go. A professional dealer can evaluate your coin and tell you if it's something collectors are looking for. Another option is coin shows, where multiple buyers compete for rare pieces. Sometimes this competition can increase the price of a desirable coin. Then there are online auction platforms where collectors from across the country can bid against each other. When the right coin appears at the right time, prices can climb surprisingly high. And of course, some of the most valuable coins end up in major auction houses where serious collectors search for rare treasures. Now here's something to think about. What if the penny you are holding right now could help pay off bills, fund a vacation, or even start a small investment fund? It might sound dramatic, but it has happened before. Ordinary people have discovered valuable coins while sorting through inherited collections, old piggy banks, and even everyday pocket change. So the real question becomes this. Are you checking your coins carefully enough? Because hidden among billions of ordinary pennies are a few special ones that collectors are willing to pay real money for. And the 1960D Lincoln penny is one of those coins that keeps surprising people. Most examples are only worth a few cents. But the right variety with the right error in the right condition could be worth far more than anyone expects. Imagine the excitement of discovering that hidden value. Imagine holding a coin that most people would spend without a second thought, while you recognize it as something collectors are searching for. That is the power of knowledge in the coin collecting world. From pocket change to potential profit. From a single penny to possibly hundreds of dollars. And sometimes that journey begins with nothing more than curiosity and a careful look at the coins already sitting in your home. So before you spend that next penny, take a moment to examine it closely. Check the date. Look for the mint mark. Study the numbers. Because somewhere out there, someone is holding a small copper coin that could change their financial story, and the next incredible coin discovery might already be in your pocket. Imagine picking up an old penny that looks like nothing special. A small copper coin that may have been sitting in a jar for decades. Now imagine discovering that collectors have quietly paid surprisingly high prices for certain examples of that same coin. Today we're taking a closer look at the 1964 D mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of Americans have owned at one time or another, yet one that still attracts serious attention from collectors and professional buyers. Some verified examples have produced unusually strong sale results when the right combination of condition, variety, and timing comes together. And for many people, the possibility of a quiet wealth discovery starts with coins they already have at home. The year 1964 was an interesting moment in American coin history. The country was experiencing major cultural and economic changes, and coin production was reaching enormous levels. Pennies were still made primarily of copper, and the United States Mint was striking coins in huge numbers to keep up with demand. The Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark below the date on the obverse of the coin, produced billions of Lincoln cents that year. Because of those massive mintages, most 1964 D pennies are extremely common in circulation today. But this is where many people get confused. Just because a coin was made in large numbers doesn't automatically mean every example is worth only 1 cent. In the coin collecting world, value often comes down to details that most people never notice. Condition, strike quality, color, and small varieties can completely change how collectors evaluate a coin. The 1964 D Lincoln penny features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, designed by Victor David Brenner. On the reverse, you see the classic wheat-free Lincoln Memorial design that was used from 1959 through 2008. Most examples are made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, which gives them that warm reddish tone collectors love. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch: the color designation. When professional grading services examine a copper coin, they often categorize it as brown, red-brown, or full red. A penny that has retained its original bright red mint color for decades can attract much stronger demand than one that has darkened over time. That difference alone can dramatically affect value. In everyday circulated condition, a typical 1964 D penny might only sell for a few cents to perhaps $1 or $2 depending on quality. That may not sound exciting at first, but when we move into higher grade examples that have been carefully preserved, the numbers begin to change. Certified coins in mint state condition can sometimes reach tens or even hundreds of dollars, especially if the surfaces are clean and the strike is sharp. This difference can completely change collector interest. A coin that looks ordinary in a pocket jar may actually be worth submitting for professional grading if it appears nearly flawless. Even tiny marks or dull surfaces can lower the grade, which is why serious collectors inspect these coins under magnification. Another reason collectors still pay attention to the 1964 D penny is the possibility of subtle varieties. Over the years, specialists have identified differences in dyes, doubling effects, and other small production quirks that occurred during the minting process. While most examples show no unusual features, the rare variety can generate significant excitement when discovered. This is where patient collectors sometimes uncover hidden financial potential. A coin that sat unnoticed in circulation for decades could reveal a detail that specialists have been quietly searching for. That's why experienced buyers still review large groups of older pennies one coin at a time. Here's another point that surprises many owners. Condition matters more than age alone. A worn 1964 D penny that circulated heavily for decades may only bring minimal value. Meanwhile, a coin that was saved early, perhaps stored in a roll or collection, might still display strong mint luster and minimal wear. That visual difference is often what separates a common coin from one that attracts serious offers. There's also the factor of professional certification. Coins graded and sealed by reputable grading companies often sell for higher prices because buyers trust the authenticity and assigned grade. When collectors see a certified mint state example with attractive color and surfaces, competition among buyers can increase quickly. This is where many people make a costly mistake. Some owners attempt to clean their coins, believing it will make them more valuable. In reality, cleaning almost always reduces collector value. Even gentle polishing can leave hairline scratches that experienced buyers immediately recognize. A naturally aged coin is almost always preferable to one that has been altered. Another common mistake is selling too quickly without researching the coin first. Because billions of 1964D pennies exist, most will remain inexpensive. However, the rare high-grade or unusual example can stand apart dramatically from the rest. That's why knowledgeable sellers often take time to evaluate their coins before deciding what to do. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch that many casual owners overlook: strike sharpness. Coins produced during busy production periods sometimes show softer details, particularly in Lincoln's hair and the steps of the memorial building on the reverse. A sharply struck example with crisp details can attract more collector interest, especially if the surfaces remain clean. When those qualities combine, strong strike, bright red color, and very few contact marks, auction results can surprise people who assumed all pennies were essentially the same. In select cases, well-preserved examples have produced life-changing sale results for collectors who recognize their importance early. But it's important to remember that those results usually involve coins in exceptional condition. The majority of 1964D pennies will still fall into the common category. That's why knowledge and careful inspection play such an important role in the coin collecting world. This is where patient searching becomes valuable. Many experienced collectors still look through old penny jars, coin rolls, and inherited collections because they understand how small details can separate an ordinary coin from one with hidden financial potential. If you have older pennies stored away, the 1964D is definitely a date worth checking carefully. Look at the color, the surface quality, and the sharpness of the details. Avoid cleaning the coin, and if it appears unusually well preserved, consider having it evaluated by a professional grading service. And remember, the real advantage comes from learning how these coins are evaluated by collectors and buyers. The more you understand about mint marks, condition, and varieties, the easier it becomes to spot coins that others might overlook. Before you move on, take a moment to check your own penny jars and collections. That small copper coin you've ignored for years could hold a story you never expected. Sometimes the most ordinary objects hide the most surprising history. If you enjoy discovering the quiet wealth potential inside everyday coins, make sure to watch another video about valuable Lincoln pennies, because several other dates have produced extraordinary collector interest over the years. In the world of coin collecting, patience, knowledge, and careful observation often matter far more than speed, and those who take the time to learn the details are often the ones who make the most remarkable discoveries. Most people don't think twice about a penny dated 1973. It's the kind of coin that often sits quietly in a jar, a drawer, or the bottom of a change tray for years. But here's the surprising part. Certain examples of the 1973 Lincoln penny with no mint mark have drawn serious attention from collectors, and in some verified cases, exceptionally well-preserved pieces have sold for prices far higher than most people would ever expect from a single cent. So before you dismiss the pennies you already own, it's worth taking a closer look at the story behind this coin and why collectors continue to watch it carefully. The 1973 Lincoln cent honors one of the most recognized figures in American history, Abraham Lincoln. By the early 1970s, the Lincoln penny had already been circulating for decades, and millions of Americans handled them every day without realizing that certain small details could make a big difference in collector interest. The coins dated 1973 were produced by the United States Mint at several facilities. Pennies made in Philadelphia during that year carried no mint mark at all. That small missing letter under the date is actually the normal design for Philadelphia coins of that time, and it's exactly what identifies the version many collectors examine closely today. This is where many people get confused. The absence of a mint mark doesn't automatically make the coin rare. In fact, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of these pennies in 1973. Most examples still found in circulation today are worth only a small premium over face value, especially if they show heavy wear. But collectors are not simply looking at the date. They are looking at condition, strike quality, and subtle varieties that can dramatically change a coin's appeal. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. The 1973 penny was struck in the traditional bronze composition used for Lincoln cents before the copper changes of the 1980s. That means the coin contains about 95% copper, along with small amounts of tin and zinc. Over time, that copper surface develops color variations ranging from bright red to deep brown. Professional coin grading services typically classify these colors as red, red-brown, or brown, and that color difference can completely change collector interest. For example, a heavily circulated 1973 penny with no mint mark and a dark brown surface might sell for only a few cents to a few dollars. But a sharply struck example with full original red color, especially one that has been carefully preserved since the day it left the mint, can attract far stronger bidding. In top certified grades, some pristine red examples have reached surprisingly strong auction prices. These are not ordinary coins pulled from pocket change. They are coins that somehow survived decades without wear, scratches, or environmental damage. For collectors searching for registry-quality coins, those pieces represent a kind of quiet wealth discovery. This difference can completely change interest. Two coins with the exact same date may look almost identical to the untrained eye, yet one could sell for less than $1 while another might bring dozens or even hundreds depending on grade and certification. And condition is only part of the story. This is where many people get confused again. Some collectors also search for small production variations. During high-speed minting in the 1970s, dies sometimes develop tiny flaws or alignment shifts. These can create double details, unusual lettering shapes, or other subtle features that specialists track carefully. Not every unusual mark is valuable, but certain recognized varieties can increase collector curiosity. That's why experienced buyers often examine the lettering in Liberty, the date itself, and the words, "In God We Trust." Even slight doubling or unusual die characteristics can turn an otherwise common coin into something collectors want to study more closely. Here's another detail collectors quietly watch: the strike quality of the coin. Lincoln's hair above the ear, the lines in the wheat-style memorial design on the reverse, and the sharpness of the lettering all tell specialists how well the coin was struck when it left the mint. Weak strikes are common. Strong strikes are less common. And exceptional strikes in high grade are the ones that sometimes lead to life-changing sale results for select examples. Now let's talk about realistic value ranges, because this is where expectations need to stay grounded. A typical circulated 1973 penny with no mint mark may be worth between a few cents and a couple of dollars depending on condition. A brighter, uncirculated example might sell for several dollars to perhaps $20 or $30 if it remains attractive. But once you enter the highest certified grades, coins graded by professional services and preserved in nearly flawless condition, the market can look very different. Certain top-tier examples have crossed into much higher price territory when collectors compete for them at auction. That doesn't happen often, but it does happen, and it's exactly why collectors still review rolls, jars, and old collections. This is where many people unknowingly reduce the value of their coins. Cleaning, polishing, or attempting to improve the appearance. It might seem harmless, but cleaning a coin can permanently damage its surface and remove the original mint luster collectors want to see. Once that natural surface is gone, the coin often loses a large portion of its collector appeal. Another mistake is storing coins loosely where they rub against each other. Small scratches, fingerprints, or environmental spots can slowly lower the grade over time. Patient collectors do the opposite. They store coins in protective holders, avoid touching the surfaces, and wait for the right buyer or auction environment. And sometimes that patience reveals hidden financial potential. Across the country, collectors continue to rediscover coins that sat quietly for decades. A jar of old pennies from the 1970s might contain nothing unusual, but occasionally, someone notices an exceptionally bright, sharply struck piece that stands out from the rest. That's the moment when curiosity turns into research, and research sometimes leads to a surprising result. This difference can completely change interest, especially when the coin is authenticated and graded by professionals. So if you happen to own pennies from the early 1970s, especially those with the 1973 date and no mint mark, it may be worth taking a careful second look. Examine the color, the sharpness of the design, the condition of the surfaces. Those small details are exactly what collectors quietly watch. And remember, the most valuable discoveries rarely happen because someone rushed. They happen because someone took the time to learn what to look for. Before you spend another penny without checking it, go through your change, your coin jars, and any older collections that may have been sitting untouched for years. You never know when a simple coin could reveal a quiet wealth discovery hiding in plain sight. And if you enjoy learning about pennies that have surprised collectors with extraordinary sale results, make sure to watch the next video about another Lincoln cent date that has sparked serious curiosity among buyers. Because in the world of coin collecting, knowledge and patience almost always matter more than speed. Welcome back. Take a close look at the pennies sitting in your change jar, the ones you might normally ignore. Among them could be a coin that looks completely ordinary at first glance. A 1979 Lincoln penny with a small D mint mark under the date. Most people would spend it without a second thought. But in certain cases, examples of this very coin have sold for surprisingly strong prices at auction, especially when the right details come together. For collectors and patient sellers, discoveries like this sometimes turn an overlooked coin into a quiet financial surprise. The year 1979 was an interesting period in American coin production. The United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents every year to keep up with everyday commerce. At the Denver Mint alone, well over 6 billion Lincoln pennies were struck that year. That means the 1979 D penny is technically very common. But in the coin world, common does not always mean worthless. Condition, rarity of specific varieties, and collector demand can completely change how a coin is valued. This is where many people get confused. When they hear about a penny selling for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, they assume every coin from that year must be valuable. In reality, most circulated 1979 D pennies are worth only a few cents. But collectors are not just looking for the date. They're looking for specific details that separate ordinary examples from coins that attract real interest in the market. First, it helps to understand the composition of the coin. The 1979 D Lincoln penny was struck using the traditional bronze alloy used for decades. About 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. Each coin weighs about 3.11 grams. This copper composition matters because collectors often prefer these earlier cents compared to modern zinc pennies introduced in the 1980s. The higher copper content gives the coin a richer color and stronger long-term durability. But composition alone is not what drives value. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Condition. A 1979 D penny that has circulated through pockets, cash registers, and coin jars for decades will show wear on Lincoln's hair, cheek, and jawline. The wheat ears on earlier cents or the Lincoln Memorial on later ones also lose detail with time. These worn coins are common. However, coins that remain in uncirculated condition can be a completely different story. A bright red example that still shows its original mint luster, sharp details, and minimal marks can attract collector attention. Professional grading services classify these coins on the mint state scale, often labeled MS60 through MS70. As the grade increases, so can collector demand. This difference can completely change interest. For example, a circulated 1979 D penny might be worth only a few cents to a collector. But a certified mint state example in higher grades, especially those labeled red for original copper color, can sell for significantly more. Some certified coins graded MS66 or higher have reached prices that surprise people who thought they were holding nothing more than spare change. But condition is only one piece of the puzzle. Collectors also pay attention to varieties and minting characteristics. During the minting process, tiny differences in dies, pressure, or alignment can create variations that specialists actively search for. While major dramatic errors are rare for 1979 D cents, smaller varieties and die differences still attract attention in the coin community. Here's where many people miss an opportunity. When they check a penny, they only look at the date and mint mark. But collectors often examine the lettering, spacing, strike sharpness, and even microscopic doubling in the design. These subtle differences can influence how desirable a coin becomes to specialists building detailed sets. Another factor that quietly affects value is color designation. Copper coins are often categorized as brown, red-brown, or red. A coin that has fully toned to brown over decades is usually less valuable than one that still displays bright, original red luster. Because copper changes color easily, truly vibrant red examples from the late 1970s are harder to find in top condition. This is where many people get confused again. Cleaning a coin might seem like a way to make it look brighter and more valuable. But in the collector market, cleaning usually does the opposite. Even gentle polishing can remove the natural surface of the coin and leave tiny scratches that experts immediately recognize. Once a coin has been cleaned, its collector value can drop dramatically. Another common mistake is improper storage. Copper coins stored in humid environments or plastic containers not designed for coins can develop spots or discoloration. Serious collectors often store high-quality coins in protective holders, keeping them away from moisture and chemicals that could affect their surfaces. Now let's talk about realistic value ranges. Most circulated 1979 D pennies sell for only a few cents each. Even lightly circulated examples might bring just a small premium. But when coins enter the uncirculated category, especially with strong red color and minimal marks, prices can begin to climb. Certified mint state examples can sell for several dollars, sometimes significantly more depending on grade and eye appeal. And at the highest certified levels, rare top-grade examples have occasionally produced sale results that surprise many casual collectors. While these are not common finds, they demonstrate how the right combination of condition, color, and certification can unlock hidden financial potential inside a coin that most people overlook. This difference can completely change interest among collectors competing for registry-quality coins. When collectors try to assemble the finest known sets, they sometimes pursue the highest graded examples available. In those situations, even a relatively modern penny can achieve what some call life-changing sale results for select examples. Of course, these outcomes are not typical, and they require exceptional coins. But they illustrate why experienced collectors still pay attention to dates like the 1979 D Lincoln penny. Among billions produced, a tiny fraction survive in the remarkable condition that serious buyers want. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch before deciding whether a coin might be worth professional grading. They check for strong luster across the entire surface, minimal contact marks on Lincoln's face, and crisp lettering in Liberty and In God We Trust. When these features appear together, the coin can become much more appealing in the marketplace. Sometimes, patient sellers discover something interesting when they finally sort through old coin jars or inherited collections. What looked like a simple handful of pennies might contain a coin that collectors are willing to pay real money for. Not because it's magical, but because knowledge, condition, and timing all come together. And that's the key lesson behind coins like the 1979 D Lincoln penny. Quiet wealth discovery in the coin world rarely happens through luck alone. It usually comes from careful observation, learning what collectors actually look for, and resisting the urge to rush into selling without understanding the details. So before you spend or ignore those older pennies, take a moment to check them carefully. Look for the 1979 date, the small D mint mark from Denver, and most importantly, the condition and color of the coin itself. Even if most examples are common, the right one could hold more interest than you expect. And if you enjoy discovering the hidden financial potential inside everyday coins, make sure to watch another video about valuable Lincoln pennies. There are several other dates and varieties that collectors continue to search for, and understanding them can make a real difference when you're sorting through your own coins. Because in the world of coin collecting, patience and knowledge often matter far more than speed. And sometimes, the next interesting discovery is already sitting quietly in your pocket change. Welcome back. Take a moment and imagine reaching into a small jar of old pennies that has been sitting in your home for years. Most people assume those coins are only worth 1 cent each. But collectors know that sometimes an ordinary-looking penny can hide something far more interesting. In fact, certain verified examples of the 1985 D Lincoln penny have sold for surprisingly strong prices when the right combination of condition, detail, and rarity comes together. Today we're taking a closer look at the 1985 penny with the D Mint mark, a coin that millions of Americans have handled, but very few have truly examined. The year 1985 sits in an interesting period of modern U.S. coin history. By this time, the Lincoln cent had already switched from its earlier bronze composition to a copper-plated zinc planchet, a change that began in 1982. The coin still carried the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design that first appeared in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. On the reverse, collectors continued to see the classic Lincoln Memorial design, which remained in production until 2008. The small letter D beneath the date tells us this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. In 1985, Denver produced billions of pennies for circulation. Because of those huge numbers, most examples people find today are very common and trade for only a few cents. But this is where many people get confused. While the average coin might be common, certain examples with unusual characteristics or exceptional condition can attract much stronger interest from collectors. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Condition plays an enormous role in value. A heavily circulated 1985 D penny with scratches, fading, or wear is typically worth only its face value. But coins that were never heavily used, sometimes called uncirculated coins, can be a completely different story. When a coin retains its original mint luster and sharp details, collectors begin to pay much closer attention. And this difference can completely change interest. Professional grading services evaluate coins on a numerical scale. When a 1985 D penny receives a very high grade, such as MS66 or higher, the supply becomes dramatically smaller. Only a limited number of coins survive in that near-perfect condition. Because collectors compete for those top examples, auction results can climb much higher than most people expect. This is where many people get surprised. Some certified high-grade examples of the 1985 D Lincoln penny have sold for hundreds of dollars, and in rare cases even more when exceptional eye appeal is present. These are not everyday coins pulled from pocket change. They are carefully preserved pieces that manage to avoid circulation for decades. But condition isn't the only factor collectors watch. Certain minting irregularities also attract attention. During the coin production process, small mistakes sometimes occur. These can include double details, off-center strikes, or unusual surface features caused during the striking process. While many minor imperfections are common, a genuine and well-defined mint error can create significant collector demand. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch that many casual owners overlook. Look closely at the lettering, especially the word Liberty and the date. On some coins, collectors search for signs of doubling or unusual thickness in the letters. A true double die variety is different from simple machine doubling, and experienced buyers examine these details very carefully before assigning extra value. This is where many people get confused again. Damage that happens after the coin leaves the mint does not increase value. Scratches, environmental corrosion, or cleaning marks usually reduce a coin's appeal to collectors. In fact, one of the most common mistakes owners make is attempting to clean a penny to make it look brighter. Unfortunately, cleaning often removes original surfaces and can permanently lower the coin's market value. Another detail that can separate ordinary coins from desirable ones is the quality of the strike. Some 1985 D pennies show very crisp lines in Lincoln's hair and strong detail on the Lincoln Memorial. When the strike is sharp and the surfaces remain untouched, collectors sometimes describe the coin as having exceptional eye appeal. Those subtle differences can make a big impact in auctions. And this difference can completely change collector interest. A typical circulated 1985 D penny might sell for only 1 to 5 cents in bulk. A nice uncirculated example could bring $1 or a few dollars depending on quality. But a certified high-grade coin graded near the top of the scale has occasionally reached prices that surprise many people who thought modern pennies were worthless. For some collectors and careful sellers, this creates what many call a quiet wealth discovery. It doesn't happen every day, and it certainly doesn't happen with every coin. But the possibility of hidden financial potential is exactly why experienced collectors continue searching through jars, coin rolls, and estate collections. Here's another moment where many viewers overlook something important. Storage matters. Pennies kept loose in drawers or exposed to moisture often develop spots or discoloration. But coins stored carefully in rolls, albums, or protective holders sometimes survive in much better condition. Those preserved coins are the ones most likely to attract attention decades later. This is also where patience becomes important. Many sellers rush to spend or exchange their old coins without ever checking them closely. but knowledgeable collectors take time to examine dates, mint marks, and condition before making any decisions. That patience is sometimes what leads to unexpected income when a strong example appears. Before you dismiss your own pennies, take a closer look at the date. Check for the small D mint mark beneath the year 1985. Examine the coin under good lighting and look for strong details, original shine, and surfaces that appear untouched. Even if most examples are common, the occasional standout piece can still attract serious interest. And remember, knowledge matters more than speed. The people who benefit most in coin collecting are often the ones who take time to learn the details that others ignore. So before you spend another penny, check your change jars and old coin rolls carefully. You might discover something interesting hiding in plain sight. And if you enjoy uncovering the hidden financial potential of everyday coins, make sure to watch our next video where we explore another Lincoln penny date that collectors continue to search for across America. Because sometimes the smallest coins carry the most fascinating stories. Welcome back. Take a moment and imagine reaching into a jar of loose change, pulling out a simple penny, and realizing that the small coin in your hand might be worth far more than 1 cent. It sounds unlikely, yet stories like this have quietly circulated in the coin collecting world for years. Certain ordinary-looking pennies have produced surprisingly strong sale prices when the right details line up. And today we're taking a closer look at one of the most overlooked examples, the 2001 Abraham Lincoln penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it appears completely ordinary. But under the right conditions, collectors have shown real interest in specific examples of this coin. The 2001 Lincoln penny was produced during a time when billions of pennies were still being minted each year in the United States. The familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln had already been on the coin for decades, making it one of the most recognizable designs in American history. By 2001, pennies were being struck primarily at 2 locations, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Coins from Denver carry a small D mint mark under the date, but coins struck in Philadelphia traditionally appear without a mint mark at all. That means a 2001 penny with no mint mark was made in Philadelphia. Now here's where many people get confused. Because the coin has no mint mark, many assume it must be rare or unusual. In reality, the Philadelphia Mint produced billions of these pennies that year. Most examples still circulating today are only worth their face value. But collectors rarely stop at the surface of a coin. Instead, they look for small details that quietly separate an ordinary penny from one that attracts serious attention. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. The 2001 penny was struck using a copper-plated zinc composition. That means the core of the coin is mostly zinc, with a thin copper layer bonded to the outside. Under normal conditions, these coins weigh about 2.5 grams. But if something unusual happened during the minting process, such as a plating issue, striking error, or die problem, the appearance of the coin can change in ways that immediately catch the eye of collectors. This difference can completely change interest. For example, some 2001 no-mint mark pennies have been found with striking errors such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, or die cracks. These are small production mistakes that happen when minting equipment operates under enormous pressure. Most coins are struck perfectly, but occasionally, a small number escape with visible flaws that make them unique. This is where many people get confused again. Not every odd-looking penny is valuable. Damage that occurs after the coin leaves the mint, like scratches, corrosion, or bending, usually lowers value instead of raising it. Collectors are specifically interested in genuine mint errors, the kinds that occur during the production process itself. Another detail that collectors quietly watch is condition. Even though millions of 2001 pennies exist, very few remain in flawless condition. Coins that entered circulation quickly picked up scratches, wear, and discoloration. But a small percentage were preserved carefully, sometimes stored in rolls or coin albums from the day they were minted. This difference can completely change interest. A worn 2001 penny with no mint mark might only be worth 1 cent. But a sharply struck example with strong red color, clean surfaces, and no signs of wear can command much stronger interest among collectors. When coins are graded and certified by professional grading services, their value often becomes easier to track in the collector market. In circulated condition. Most 2001 no-mint mark pennies trade for face value or only a few cents, but uncirculated coins with bright red surfaces can sometimes sell in the range of a few dollars to several dozen dollars depending on quality. Higher-grade certified examples have occasionally reached significantly stronger prices when collectors compete for the best-preserved coins. And here's where patient collectors sometimes notice something interesting. A small number of exceptional coins, those with top-tier grading or unusual mint errors, have produced sale results that collectors describe as surprisingly strong for a modern penny. While these situations are rare, they demonstrate the hidden financial potential that can exist in coins most people overlook every day. This is also where mistakes can quietly reduce value. Many people clean their coins thinking it will make them more attractive to buyers. But in the coin collecting world, cleaning almost always lowers a coin's value. The natural surface of a coin is extremely important to collectors. Even a gentle cleaning can remove original mint luster and reduce interest dramatically. Another common mistake is storing coins loosely where they rub against each other. Friction can cause tiny scratches that lower the grade of the coin. Experienced collectors prefer to store promising coins in protective holders where the surfaces remain untouched. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch that most people never notice. The color of a Lincoln penny can influence value more than many owners expect. Freshly preserved copper-plated pennies often display a bright red color. Over time, exposure to air slowly darkens the surface to red-brown and eventually brown. Coins that maintain their original red color from the mint are typically the most desirable to collectors. This difference can completely change interest in the marketplace. Two coins from the same year might appear identical to a casual observer, but if one retains vibrant mint color and the other has darkened significantly, collectors will often pay much more for the brighter example. And this is where patience becomes important. Some coin owners search through jars of old pennies and discover pieces that appear unusually sharp or well preserved. While most will still be common coins, occasionally someone identifies a high-grade example or genuine mint error that had been hiding unnoticed for years. These moments are sometimes described by collectors as a quiet wealth discovery, finding unexpected value in something that seemed completely ordinary out of course. Knowledge plays a major role. Experienced collectors take time to examine the date, mint mark area, strike quality, surface condition, and overall eye appeal. When all those factors align, the right coin can attract significant interest from buyers who are building high-quality collections. So if you happen to come across a 2001 Abraham Lincoln penny with no mint mark, it's worth taking a closer look before tossing it aside. Check the condition carefully. Look for unusual features, strong details, or signs that the coin may have avoided heavy circulation. Even though most examples remain common, a small number hold hidden financial potential that collectors still watch for today. And if you enjoy discovering the stories behind everyday coins, you might want to keep exploring other Lincoln pennies as well. Some dates and varieties have produced life-changing sale results for select examples, especially when rare errors or exceptional condition are involved. So take a few minutes after this video and look through your own pennies. You never know which coin might reveal a detail others overlooked. And if you'd like to continue learning about pennies that collectors quietly search for, make sure to watch our next video where we explore another Lincoln cent that has surprised owners with unexpected collector interest. Because in the world of coin collecting, knowledge and patience often matter far more than speed. Take a moment and imagine this. A small copper-colored coin sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten change dish. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. But what if that coin happened to be a 2004 Lincoln penny with no mint mark? For most people, it's just pocket change. Yet for some collectors and careful sellers, certain examples of this coin have attracted surprising attention in the marketplace. In rare cases, well-preserved or unusual pieces have even produced life-changing sale results for select examples. Today we're going to explore why the 2004 Lincoln penny without a mint mark still sparks curiosity among collectors and coin buyers across the United States. The year 2004 was part of an interesting era for the Lincoln cent. The coin still featured Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design that had already been in circulation for nearly a century. On the back, you would see the familiar Lincoln Memorial, which had been used since 1959. Millions of these pennies were struck that year, and most entered circulation quickly, moving through banks, stores, and pockets across the country. But here's something many people don't realize. When a penny from 2004 has no mint mark under the date, it typically means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. For decades, Philadelphia pennies did not carry a mint mark, which often surprises newer collectors who assume a missing mark must be an error. In most cases, it's simply how the coin was made. This is where many people get confused. A 2004 penny with no mint mark is common overall, but that doesn't mean every example holds the same value. In fact, the difference between an ordinary coin and one that attracts collector interest can come down to very small details. First, let's talk about condition. Most 2004 pennies spent years moving through everyday commerce. They picked up scratches, dull surfaces, and worn details. These circulated examples usually trade very close to their face value. But coins that avoided circulation, often called uncirculated or mint-state examples, can attract far more interest. A sharply preserved coin with bright luster and strong detail can sometimes sell for several dollars. And in top certified grades, the value can rise significantly higher. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. The color of a copper-plated zinc Lincoln cent plays a major role in value. Coins are often categorized as red, red-brown, or brown depending on how much of the original mint color remains. A 2004 penny that still shows vibrant original red surfaces is often far more appealing to collectors than one that has darkened over time. This difference can completely change interest. Two pennies from the same year, struck in the same mint, can end up with very different values simply because one kept its original color and sharpness while the other circulated for years. Now let's talk about varieties and unusual features. Most 2004 pennies are standard issues, but collectors constantly study coins for subtle differences. Occasionally, coins appear with die cracks, doubled letters, off-center strikes, or other mint-related characteristics. While many of these variations are minor, some become widely known among collectors and attract stronger demand. This is where patient searching sometimes leads to what collectors call a quiet wealth discovery. It doesn't happen often, but when a coin shows a recognized variety combined with excellent preservation, it can stand out dramatically compared with ordinary examples. Here's another place people often make mistakes. Many coin owners clean their pennies thinking it will increase the value. In reality, cleaning usually does the opposite. Harsh wiping or polishing can permanently damage the surface and remove the natural mint luster that collectors look for. A cleaned coin almost always sells for less than an untouched one. This is where knowledge becomes more valuable than speed. Experienced collectors and sellers understand that coins should remain exactly as they were found. Even small scratches caused by cleaning can reduce interest from buyers who prefer original surfaces. Let's look at realistic value ranges. A typical circulated 2004 Lincoln penny with no mint mark will usually remain worth only a few cents at most. But a bright, well-preserved, uncirculated example might attract several dollars depending on quality. Coins graded at the very highest levels by professional grading services can sometimes sell for significantly higher prices, especially when collectors compete for top registry sets. This is where many people get confused again. News headlines sometimes highlight a high sale price from a certified example in extraordinary condition. That doesn't mean every coin from the same year will reach that level. Instead, those results show what is possible when rarity, condition, and collector demand all meet at the same moment. Another detail collectors quietly watch is strike quality. Some coins leave the mint with exceptionally sharp details in Lincoln's portrait and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. When these features appear crisp and well-defined, they tend to attract stronger interest in the collecting community. This difference can completely change interest among buyers. A coin with average detail might blend in with millions of others, while a sharply struck example can stand out immediately under magnification. Over time, collectors have learned that hidden financial potential often lies in coins that were carefully saved rather than quickly spent. People who kept rolls of pennies, old bank boxes, or coin collections sometimes discover that certain pieces inside have become more desirable than expected. That's why patient sellers occasionally experience unexpected income from coins that once seemed ordinary. Not because every penny is valuable, but because careful observation can reveal the small details collectors value most. So if you happen to come across a 2004 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, Take a closer look before dismissing it as simple pocket change. Check the color. Look at the sharpness of the design. Examine it under good lighting for unusual features or striking details. Sometimes the real story of a coin isn't obvious at first glance. And remember, knowledge and patience matter far more than rushing to sell. Many collectors spend years learning which details truly separate common coins from those with stronger collector demand. Before you move on, take a few minutes to check your own pennies. You might be surprised by what's been hiding in plain sight all along. And if you enjoy discovering the hidden stories behind everyday coins, be sure to watch our next video about another Lincoln penny date that has quietly captured the attention of collectors across the country. Welcome back. Take a moment and picture this. You're sorting through a small jar of pennies sitting in a kitchen drawer. Most people see nothing more than spare change. But occasionally, a single coin catches the attention of collectors across the country. One example that has quietly sparked curiosity is the 2013 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. Yet some verified examples of modern Lincoln cents have sold for surprisingly strong prices, especially when certain details line up just right. The 2013 Lincoln cent is part of the long-running series honoring Abraham Lincoln, one of the most collected coin designs in American history. By this point, the penny had already gone through more than a century of production. Millions were struck every year, and many people assume modern pennies cannot hold much value. But the reality is more nuanced, and this is where things start to get interesting. Coins dated 2013 were produced primarily at two major facilities, Philadelphia and Denver. Pennies made in Denver carry a small D mint mark under the date. But coins struck in Philadelphia traditionally have no mint mark at all. That means a 2013 penny with no mint mark was produced in Philadelphia. And this is where many people get confused. Because the coin has no mint mark, some assume it must be rare. In reality, Philadelphia produced a very large number of these coins. So in typical circulated condition, a 2013 penny without a mint mark usually carries only modest collector interest. However, collectors rarely stop at the basic explanation. What they really look for are the subtle differences that separate everyday pocket change from coins that attract serious attention. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Condition matters more than almost anything else. A penny that has circulated through thousands of transactions usually shows scratches, fading, and dull surfaces. But if a coin somehow avoided circulation and remained in near-perfect shape, the story can change dramatically. Professional grading services evaluate coins using the mint state scale. On this scale, small differences in quality can create big differences in collector demand. A typical circulated 2013 Philadelphia penny might be worth only face value or slightly more. But when a coin is preserved in extremely high mint state grades like MS67 or higher, it can suddenly stand out among millions of others. This difference can completely change interest. In rare cases where coins reach elite certified grades with strong luster and minimal marks, auction results have surprised many casual collectors. These are the kinds of examples that occasionally produce strong sales, not because the coin is old, but because so few survive in near-perfect condition. Another factor collectors examine closely is the design itself. The reverse of the 2013 penny features the Union Shield, a design introduced in 2010 to represent the strength and unity of the United States. While billions were produced, specialists still search for subtle variations such as strike quality, die polish lines, and minor doubling. This is where many people overlook something important. Small minting irregularities can attract specialized collectors. Minor doubled lettering, unusual die chips, or striking anomalies sometimes appear during production. Most are minor, but occasionally a noticeable variety appears that sparks interest within the coin community. That doesn't mean every unusual mark creates major value, but experienced collectors know that certain varieties, when confirmed and documented, can bring attention to an otherwise ordinary date. Here's another detail collectors quietly watch. The composition of the 2013 penny is different from older copper cents. Since 1982, most Lincoln cents have been made primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating. Because of this composition, coins can develop spotting, bubbling, or discoloration if exposed to moisture. This difference can completely change collector interest. A coin with bright original surfaces, strong red color, and no environmental damage stands far above the average example found in circulation. Now let's talk about realistic value ranges. A heavily circulated 2013 penny with no mint mark is typically worth about 1 cent. Coins that appear slightly nicer may sell in small bulk lots for just a few cents each. But uncirculated rolls or well-preserved examples can attract modest collector demand. Certified mint state coins sometimes sell for several dollars depending on grade. At the very highest certified levels, where only a tiny number of coins qualify, auction records have shown that collectors may compete strongly for the finest known examples. These are the kinds of situations where unexpected prices occasionally appear, especially when registry collectors are building top-ranked sets. This is where many people get confused again. They hear about a high sale price and assume every similar coin is worth the same. In reality, the difference between an average coin and a top-graded example can be enormous. Another mistake owners make is cleaning their coins. It might seem logical to polish a penny to make it look brighter. But in the world of coin collecting, cleaning almost always reduces value. Even gentle wiping can leave hairline scratches that grading experts immediately recognize. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Natural surfaces matter. Coins that remain untouched since leaving the mint often show a specific type of shine called original luster. Once that surface is altered, it can never truly be restored. Storage also plays a major role. Pennies tossed loosely in jars often develop marks and friction. But coins stored carefully in protective holders sometimes remain in remarkable condition for years. And this is where quiet wealth discovery occasionally happens. Someone searching through a forgotten roll of pennies might come across an unusually sharp example with brilliant color and minimal marks. When submitted for professional grading, a few of these coins have reached grades high enough to attract serious collector attention. It doesn't happen often, but it happens enough to keep people searching. Another interesting point is how modern coin collecting has evolved. Online marketplaces and auction platforms have made it easier than ever for collectors across the country to compete for top-quality coins. That increased visibility sometimes brings surprising results when a particularly nice example appears. This difference can completely change interest in a coin that most people ignore every day. So if you happen to come across a 2013 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, the most important step is simple observation. Look carefully at the surfaces. Check for strong original color, sharp details in Lincoln's hair and beard, and clean fields with minimal marks. You may simply have a normal penny, but occasionally, people discover a coin that stands far above average quality. And that's the fascinating part of modern coin collecting. Even a coin made in recent years can hold hidden financial potential when the right combination of condition, rarity within grade, and collector demand comes together. Before you spend your next handful of pennies, take a closer look at the dates and details. Many collectors began their journey with nothing more than curiosity and a pocket full of change. If you enjoy discovering coins with surprising history and potential, make sure to watch the next video where we explore another Lincoln penny date that collectors continue to search for. Because sometimes, the smallest coins carry the biggest stories, and the people who learn the details are often the ones who recognize them first. Welcome back. Take a moment and imagine reaching into a jar of loose change and pulling out a penny that looks completely ordinary. The color is familiar, the design hasn't changed much in years, and most people would barely give it a second glance. But what if that small copper-colored coin carried details that collectors quietly watch for? Details that in certain situations have led to unusually strong sale prices. Today we're taking a closer look at the 2021 Lincoln penny with the D-Mint mark, a modern coin that most Americans have seen, yet very few people actually study closely. The 2021 penny was struck during a unique time in modern American history. Production at the United States Mint was running at full speed as millions of coins were needed for circulation. The Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark beneath the year, produced hundreds of millions of these pennies. At first glance, that sounds like a huge number, and it is, but collectors know something important. Even very common coins can become desirable when specific varieties, errors, or exceptional condition are discovered. This is where many people get confused. They assume that because a coin is modern, it cannot possibly have meaningful value. But coin collectors have always focused on details, and sometimes those details appear on coins from the last few years. The 2021 D. Lincoln penny carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design that has been part of American coinage for more than a century. On the reverse, you'll see the Union Shield design, representing the strength and unity of the United States. Now here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Not every 2021 D-penny is identical. While the basic design is the same, small differences in strike quality, surface preservation, and minting anomalies can separate an ordinary coin from one that sparks real collector interest. Most 2021 D-pennies found in pocket change are considered circulated. These coins may show small scratches, dull surfaces, or light wear. In that condition, their value is usually just 1 cent. But when collectors begin searching rolls of pennies or sealed bank boxes, they are often hunting for coins that look almost perfect. And this difference can completely change interest. A 2021 D-penny that has never circulated, with bright, original luster and sharp details, may attract attention from collectors who build modern high-grade sets. When such coins are professionally graded and certified in very high mint state levels, the value can climb far beyond face value. For example, certified coins graded at the very top of the scale, such as MS-67 or higher, have occasionally brought strong prices in collector markets. Not every coin reaches that level, of course. In fact, only a tiny percentage ever do. But when they appear, they demonstrate how condition alone can create surprising demand. This is where many people get confused again. They think the mint mark itself automatically makes the coin valuable. In reality, the D simply tells us the coin was produced in Denver. What collectors truly watch are the subtle characteristics that appear during the minting process. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch when examining 2021 D-pennies. Die varieties and mint errors. While most coins are struck normally, the high-speed minting process can occasionally create small differences. These might include double details in lettering, minor die chips, or unusual strike patterns. Many of these variations are small, but certain ones attract serious attention among variety collectors. Another factor that separates ordinary coins from desirable ones is surface quality. Coins that avoid contact marks during the minting and packaging process are rare. When grading services evaluate a coin, they look closely at the cheek of Lincoln, the fields around the portrait, and the sharpness of the shield lines on the reverse. Even tiny imperfections can lower the grade, and this difference can completely change interest in the marketplace. A coin graded MS-63 might sell for only a modest premium, while the same date and mint mark in MS-67 could attract much stronger bidding from collectors building registry-level sets. These registry competitions have quietly increased demand for the highest quality modern coins. Now let's talk about realistic value ranges. Circulated 2021 D-pennies are usually worth face value. Bright uncirculated coins pulled from rolls may sell for a small premium, sometimes a few cents to a few dollars depending on quality. But certified examples at very high grades have occasionally reached much higher auction results, especially when population numbers remain extremely low. This is where the idea of hidden financial potential sometimes appears. It doesn't mean every penny will produce a life-changing sale result. But in rare situations, collectors have discovered coins in rolls or stored collections that later graded at exceptional levels, revealing quiet wealth discoveries that many people never expected from a modern penny. Here's another point many owners overlook. Cleaning a coin can dramatically reduce its collector value. Some people think polishing a penny will make it more attractive, but collectors strongly prefer original surfaces. Once a coin is cleaned, even lightly, it may lose the very qualities that grading services look for. This is where many people get confused. They assume shine equals value. In reality, natural mint luster and untouched surfaces are what collectors want to see. That soft cartwheel effect you notice when tilting an uncirculated coin under light is often a sign the surface remains original. Another mistake people make is spending potential collector coins without realizing it. Modern coins move quickly through circulation, and many high-quality examples disappear into everyday use. That's why some collectors search bank rolls carefully, examining each coin under magnification. And this difference can completely change interest over time. A coin that seems ordinary today may gain collector attention years later if certain varieties become widely recognized or if high-grade populations remain small. For patient collectors and sellers, this process sometimes leads to unexpected income. A coin set aside simply because it looked unusually sharp might later become a candidate for professional grading. And if the grade comes back at the very top of the scale, that coin may attract strong demand from registry collectors. This is why knowledge matters so much in the coin world. Understanding mint marks, strike quality, and preservation allows collectors to identify coins that others might overlook. So the next time you see a 2021 Lincoln penny with the D mint mark, take a moment before tossing it back into circulation. Look closely at the surfaces. Check the sharpness of the lettering. Notice the condition of Lincoln's portrait and the shield lines on the reverse. Small details can sometimes reveal hidden financial potential that most people miss. And remember, the coin market rewards patience and careful observation. Not every coin will be valuable, but the ones that are often stand out because someone took the time to look closely. Before you go, take a few minutes to check the pennies you already have at home. Coin jars, old drawers, and forgotten collections sometimes hold surprises. And if you're curious about other Lincoln pennies that collectors are searching for right now, make sure to watch our next video, where we explore another date that has created fascinating discussions among collectors. Because in the world of coins, the smallest details can lead to the most interesting discoveries.